The night the sky cracked open, I could hear the trees crying. Welcome back to EcoNightmares, where we unveil the true horror stories of nature. Tonight, we bring you a nightmare that isn't just a story. It's real. It wasn't a storm like any I'd seen before. The wind wasn't just wind, but a howl. A scream that seemed to come from deep within the earth itself. The trees, the ones I had watched fall in neat rows for weeks, now stood silent, as though mourning what they had lost. It was too late for regrets, but still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. And in some way, I was. The town had been buzzing with the promise of new roads, new buildings, new jobs. We needed the land, and the trees were just obstacles in the way. I had seen it all before. Every contractor, every worker, all of us eager to clear the land to make way for the future. But now, as the storm raged, I realized we'd been so focused on what we could build that we never thought about what we were destroying. At first, the warnings had seemed like just old tales, whispered by elders who remembered a time when the land was green and full of life. The trees hold the soil, they'd said. They soak up the rain, and they stop the floods. I'd nodded, dismissing it as superstition. After all, we needed to make room for progress. And we were doing just that, cutting down tree after tree, clearing swathes of forest to pave the way for a town that could grow. But that night, the flood came. Faster than anyone could imagine. It started with a few heavy drops, the kind you barely notice. Then came the thunder, the kind that rattles your bones. And the rain. It didn't stop. It poured and poured, as though the heavens themselves were angry. The ground, already stripped bare of its natural defenses, couldn't hold the water. And neither could we. I watched as the first wave of water tore through the streets, sweeping everything in its path. Houses, fields, barns, all of it swallowed by the flood. The trees we had felled were gone, and with them, the protection they once offered. I could hear the cries of those who didn't make it out in time, and somewhere, deep down, I knew the flood wasn't just nature's wrath. It was the earth's retaliation. I ran to help, to pull people from the rising water, but I was too late. Mrs. Thompson, an old widow who had lived across the street, was struggling to stay afloat. I reached for her, but the current was unforgiving. The water pulled her away, like it had taken everything else in its path. I couldn't stop it. I couldn't undo the damage. The flood didn't just take homes. It took lives. People lost everything, their memories, their hard work, their families. As the water began to recede, the damage was clear. The town was a mess of broken homes, twisted metal, and shattered dreams. And in the center of it all, the land lay exposed, bare and defenseless. It wasn't just the flood that had done this. It was the trees we had cut down. They were the shield, and we had removed it. Days later, standing in the wreckage, I could see it clearly. The town was in ruins. The fields, once fertile and rich with crops, were now just mud. The air was heavy with loss. People wandered, dazed, as though they were still waiting for the floodwaters to return. The storm had left us broken, and all because we had underestimated the power of what we were destroying. I thought it was just trees, I whispered to myself, standing in what used to be the heart of the forest. I thought they were just wood. But now I see. In the aftermath, I joined the others in rebuilding. We didn't have much, but we had each other. We started planting new trees, one by one, trying to heal the land. It was hard work, slow and steady, but we couldn't just sit back. We had to take responsibility. Each tree we planted felt like a step toward redemption. But it wasn't enough. We couldn't bring back the lives that had been lost, the homes that had been destroyed. We couldn't undo what we had done. The flood was the earth's revenge, and we had to live with the consequences. As I worked, I saw the people around me planting too. Families, children, all of us, trying to restore what we had taken. We didn't talk much, but there was a shared understanding in our silence. The land wasn't just something to take from. It was something to protect. The trees weren't just obstacles, they were guardians. And by cutting them down, we had invited the flood to wash us all away. With every tree we planted, I thought about Mrs. Thompson, about the houses swallowed by the water, about the fields that would never grow again. I thought about how, for so long, I had believed progress meant destroying what came before. But now, I knew. Real progress meant learning from the past. It meant understanding that everything was connected. The trees weren't just trees. They were life. And in the end, I had taken that life, and in return, the earth had taken everything from me. Years passed, and the town began to recover. The trees grew tall, stronger than before. The land started to heal, but the scars remained. I didn't expect forgiveness. But I hoped, with every seed I planted, that maybe, just maybe, we could start again. This time with a little more respect. And when the storm clouds gathered again, I didn't fear them. I trusted the trees, now standing tall, to hold the land together. I had learned my lesson. Nature doesn't forget, and neither should we. The flood took everything, but it also gave us a chance to rebuild. And this time, we would do it right. If this story made you think, like, share, and subscribe to EcoNightmares. Stay safe. Stay aware. And I'll see you in the next nightmare.